It was shortly after midnight when at a motel a stolen truck a lawman did sight. He called for help and 3 lawmen came to his aid. Not covering the rear exit was the mistake they made. 3 men of the law went and rapped on the car thief's door, telling him that they were the law. A reply from inside came, "Let me get some clothes on, okay?" The lawman replied, not knowing inside was an escaped con named John David Brown. Out of the rear door on a balcony did John step with a gun on his hip. Quickly he spotted a lawman near his stolen truck, and a rifle blast hit the man of the law. Brown saw the lawman on the ground, and from the balcony he did a bound. Into the dense woods he would disappear, to put into the countryside fright and fear. The manhunt was on for John David Brown. "150 lawmen set up roadblocks at every avenue of escape from town. After checking Brown's past, they found out he was quite a woodsman and knew that for several days the manhunt would last. Brown was seen here and there. The trails were hot and cold. Many stories of his life were being told. Night and day the search goes on, but leaving the lawman in despair in the hunt for John David Brown. Several days later, being on the lam, hungry and cold, an act that Brown did was cowardly and bold. Into a small town church he did break, and it is said a man's life he did take. A churchman preparing for that evening's worship was allegedly shot by the gun on Brown's hip. He stole the dead man's car, and on the road Brown did flee. A few miles down the road, the car became stuck. A lawman spotted it, and he knew he had gotten a streak of luck. As he approached the car, Brown jumped out, ran into the woods and out into the night. Again, leaving the countryside in fear and fright. The woods where Brown hides is thick and dense, and the manhunt with 300 lawmen is more intense. The body of the churchman was shortly buried when Brown, still on the loose, became hungry and harried. Again in desperate need of warmth and food, broke into an old man's house, tied him up, stole things to eat and blankets to keep warm. He was kind to the old man, doing him no harm. Again, into the woods he seemed to disappear, leaving the countryside in fright and fear. It has been many days since that fatal night when a stolen truck a lawman did sight. The search goes on for John David Brown, leaving the countryside in fear and fright. Our lawmen are good, working as hard as anyone could, hoping soon to catch Brown, the phantom of the night, who has our countryside living in fear and fright. The hunt will go on and on until the lawmen capture John David Brown. About 3 weeks after the hunt for Brown began, he eluded the lawmen because he ran and ran. For days they had seen him nowhere. He wasn't around. The hunt would slow down, leaving everybody wondering if he would ever be found. The elusive John Brown. He would just disappear into the night, fleeing the countryside, living in fear and fright. For weeks, the countryside was quiet and serene, until one day Brown was again seen. It was on a Saturday, about mid-morn, when he was spotted in a small town. He was eating breakfast at a cafe just off the main highway, 30 miles west of where the hunt began. A waitress recognized the man who had been terrorizing the land. A call to the law was quickly made. Brown finished his meal and for it he paid. He saw the lawmen as they did arrive, ran to his stolen car and away he did drive. The lawmen chased Brown, catch him they could not. A few miles down, sitting aside the road, the car Brown was driving the lawman did spot. The car was empty and he was gone. The hunt again was on for John David Brown. The car that Brown left on the road was checked out. It was learned it had been stolen from a state down south. Looking through the car, many things the lawmen did find. Brown had been in a hurry and left them all behind. Fingerprints on the car, and his were a perfect match. Again Brown, the lawmen knew they would try to catch. It is asked why, when he had gone so far to get himself another car, he would want to return to this countryside. He knows the woods are thick and dense, and from the lawmen for many days he could hide. A couple of days out in the woods, Brown became hungry, just like before. It was then that he broke into a country store. While he was gathering up food and supplies, a man that was living there fired 2 shots in the dark to Brown's surprise. The shots missed him. Unharmed, he fled into the night, again putting the countryside in fear and fright. It has been many, many days since that fatal night when a stolen truck a lawman did sight. The search goes on for John David Brown. Our lawmen are good, working as hard as anyone could, hoping soon to catch Brown, the phantom of the night. Again, after several days, the hunt had slowed down, leaving everybody wondering if he would ever be found. The elusive John David Brown, who has our countryside living in fear and fright. The hunt will go on and on until our lawmen capture John David Brown.